The golden haze of sunset bathed Lagos in amber light as Michael Williams stood alone on the balcony of his penthouse, 40 floors above a city that worshipped him yet knew nothing of his soul. At 35, he possessed everything money could buy. A tech empire that had revolutionized African fintech, properties scattered across 3 continents, and a face recognizable enough to grace business magazines monthly. Yet tonight, as he swirled imported whiskey in a crystal glass, he felt hollower than the empty promises that had filled his engagement party just 6 months ago. The memories still cut like glass, catching Claire, his fiancée of 2 years, laughing into her phone. "Of course I don't love him, but have you seen his bank account?" Those words had crystallized what he'd always suspected. People saw his wallet, not the man who carried it. As Lagos lights twinkled beneath him like fallen stars, a desperate plan took root in Michael's mind. If wealth blocked people from seeing his true self, then perhaps poverty would reveal those who could recognize his soul. Dawn found Michael in his bathroom, meticulously transforming himself. The designer stubble gave way to an unkempt beard, his normally groomed hair deliberately disheveled. Contact lenses changed his striking amber eyes to an unremarkable brown. His manicured hands were roughened with sandpaper until they felt like foreign appendages. The final touch, ancient overalls, sourced from a thrift market in Yaba, hanging loose on his frame. The mirror reflected a stranger, Francis Oladipo, lowly janitor, invisible to those who mattered. His trusted PA, Mary, the only person privy to his scheme, arranged for his employment at Quantum Link's headquarters. "Sir, this is madness," she'd whispered when he'd revealed his plan. Perhaps it was, but as Michael carefully tucked away his luxury watch in favor of a cheap plastic timepiece, he knew that madness sometimes bred the purest wisdom. The first day as a janitor nearly broke him. His muscles, accustomed to personal trainers rather than manual labor, screamed in protest as he pushed mops across endless floors. The chemical smell of disinfectant burned his nostrils. Worst was the invisibility. Executives who had trembled in his presence weeks ago now brushed past without a glance, like he was nothing more than office furniture. By midday, his hands were blistered, his back was aching, and his plan seemed like spectacular foolishness. Then came the boardroom incident. He'd meant to clean it during lunch, not realizing the executive team had scheduled an impromptu meeting. Hurriedly backing out with mumbled apologies, Michael froze at the words that drifted through the closing door. "Williams is distracted lately. The merger will fail if we move quickly. We can get Quantum Link by year's end." The voice belonged to Lawrence Adeyemi, his CFO of 5 years, a man he'd trusted with company secrets and personal confidences. The betrayal cut deeper than Claire's. This was not just personal treachery, but professional sabotage that threatened thousands of livelihoods. 3 floors below this betrayal, Anna Okafor was experiencing her own crisis. Customer complaints had tripled since the new system upgrade, and her headset felt permanently grafted to her ear. "Yes, Ma. I understand completely." "No, the error wasn't your fault." Her reassurances were cut short by a loud thud and clattering plastic. Spinning around, Anna found herself face to face with a janitor who'd tripped over her carelessly placed bag, sending his bucket toppling. Dirty water splashed across the floor and onto his already stained overalls. "Ah, can't you look where you're going?" she snapped, exhaustion making her sharper than intended. The man looked up, and something in his eyes, a flash of dignity, perhaps, or wounded pride, made her regret her tone instantly. "I'm sorry," she backpedaled, grabbing tissues to help mop up. "Bad day. Not your fault." The janitor, his name tag read Francis, simply nodded, his movements efficient as he cleaned the spill. His hands, she noticed, were red and raw, blisters forming where the mop handle rubbed against unaccustomed skin. New to the job, she realized, and felt a pang of kinship. Everyone started somewhere. That night, Michael cataloged his discoveries, his CFO's betrayal, the casual invisibility of service workers, and most surprisingly, the strange compulsion to know more about the customer service representative with kind eyes and a voice that maintained its melody even when stressed. He'd noticed how, despite the chaos of her workstation, she kept a small photo frame of a young boy, her brother, he would later learn. How she'd apologized to him sincerely when others in the building wouldn't have bothered. These thoughts occupied him as he entered his empty penthouse, the luxury suddenly feeling like a mausoleum rather than a home. He slipped into his bathroom, washing away Francis for the night, watching the grime spiral down the Italian marble drain. The transformation felt increasingly like removing a disguise, rather than putting one on. Days melted into weeks as Francis became part of the quantum link landscape. Michael discovered the invisible rhythms of the building he owned but had never truly inhabited, the security guards who shared home-cooked lunches, the maintenance crew who spoke 3 languages fluently, the cleaners who knew more about executive movements than any corporate calendar. Most significantly, he discovered Anna, her habit of humming Yoruba folk songs when she thought no one was listening, how she slipped half her lunch to an elderly security man who reminded her of her late father, the way her tired eyes would still light up when solving a customer's problem. One rainy afternoon, as thunder cracked over Lagos, he found her crying silently in the break room. Instinct made him retreat, but something stronger pulled him forward. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice rough from the day's silence. Anna quickly wiped her eyes, embarrassed. "It's nothing. Just my brother David. The hospital called. His treatment isn't working as well as we hoped." She spoke of sickle cell crises, of medical bills that devoured her salary, of a brother who dreamed of becoming an engineer but spent more time in hospital beds than classrooms. The pain in her voice stripped away Michael's pretense. Before he could stop himself, Francis was sharing his acro with her, and more dangerously, pieces of his true self, his love of astronomy, his dreams before success calcified them into obligations, his loneliness in a crowded room. "Strange," Anna said, studying him with those perceptive eyes. "You talk like a professor, not a janitor." Michael's heart lurched, but he smiled awkwardly. "My father valued education above all. Some habits die hard." Their friendship unfurled cautiously, like a plant unsure of its soil. Lunch breaks became sacred territories where they exchanged stories and shared silences. Michael learned of Anna's childhood in Enugu, of parents lost to a car accident, of raising David single-handedly since she was 22. In turn, Francis offered carefully edited tales of his life, true in emotion if not in detail. Once, he brought her freshly made puff puff from a vendor near his apartment, actually purchased by his driver from an upscale restaurant that recreated street food for nostalgic executives. When she asked why he didn't eat his portion, he blamed a toothache rather than admit the truth. That seeing her simple joy at the warm dough meant more than any business acquisition ever had. Meanwhile, Michael lived a double life that grew more complicated daily. Mornings and evenings, he was the billionaire CEO, making decisions that affected thousands. But his mind increasingly drifted to cramped break rooms and the woman who saw dignity in a janitor. More dangerously, Mary reported that Lawrence was asking questions about the new cleaning staff, particularly the one who seemed to appear wherever executives gathered. Disaster struck on a humid Wednesday. Anna had been working late, analyzing customer complaint patterns that revealed something disturbing: systematic refund failures affecting thousands of accounts. Small amounts, just few naira each, but multiplied across their user base, it represented millions potentially being siphoned. Too junior to approach executives directly, she documented everything and sent it to HR. The next morning, a woman claiming to be from Human Resources called Anna to a private meeting, praised her diligence, and assured her the matter would be handled discreetly. Relieved, Anna shared her success with Francis during lunch. The panic in his eyes confused her. "Did you keep copies of everything?" he demanded, his voice suddenly authoritative. Before she could answer, security guards surrounded her desk. "Anna Okafor, you're being detained for corporate espionage and theft. Please come with us." Her protests fell on deaf ears as they escorted her out, colleagues watching in shocked silence. From across the floor, Michael met her bewildered, frightened eyes, and the world seemed to stop on its axis. That night saw no sleep for Michael Williams. As CEO, he could have simply ordered Anna's release, but that would raise unanswerable questions. Instead, he worked feverishly, his technological brilliance, the foundation of his fortune, now bent toward justice. By dawn, he had traced the diverted funds, uncovered doctor records, and connected everything to a shell company owned by none other than Lawrence Adeyemi. The evidence was irrefutable. As morning light streamed through his penthouse windows, Michael made his decision. The masquerade was over. Mary arrived with fresh clothes, not the janitor's uniform, but not his usual bespoke suit either. Instead, he chose a richly embroidered white agbada, traditional clothing that honored his heritage while symbolizing the truth he would finally embrace. "Are you certain about this, sir?" Mary asked as he removed the contact lenses, revealing his true eyes. Michael nodded. Some truths cost everything. Others set everything free. The boardroom fell silent as the doors swung open. Not the janitor, not quite the familiar CEO, but a man standing firmly in his authentic self entered. "Gentlemen, ladies, I believe we have several matters to discuss." His voice carried the authority that had built an empire, but today it served a different purpose. Security footage played on the presentation screen. Lawrence's clandestine meetings, the fake HR representative confronting Anna, the doctored financial records. Ms. Okafor discovered what 3 auditing firms missed, Michael stated, his voice dangerously calm. Her reward was false accusation and humiliation. Lawrence's face contorted with rage and fear. "You have no proof," Michael raised one eyebrow. "I have every proof, Lawrence, including recordings of your plans to undermine the merger while I was indisposed." Understanding dawned across the room. "You were watching us. Spying." Lawrence sputtered. Michael shook his head. "No. I was seeing you, perhaps for the first time. Just as you never truly saw me, or the janitor cleaning your office, or the customer service representative who saved this company millions." He turned to his head of security. "Please escort Mr. Adeyemi out. The police are waiting." As Lawrence was led away, shouting threats, Michael issued his final command of the day: "Bring Ms. Okafor from security. She deserves more than an apology." Anna entered the boardroom, exhausted from a night of questioning, her usually neat braids disheveled. Her confusion at seeing the infamous Michael Williams, whose portrait hung in the lobby, quickly transformed into shock as recognition dawned. The eyes, behind different frames, but unmistakable. The voice, no longer roughened but with the same cadence. The small scar near his right eyebrow that she'd once asked about during lunch. "Francis," she whispered, the name falling between them like a stone in still water. "Why?" The raw betrayal in that single word cut deeper than any corporate sabotage could. Michael dismissed the board, leaving them alone in the cavernous room. "I wanted to know if someone could see me, not my money, not my power. Just me." His voice cracked. "And you did, Anna. You treated a janitor with the same respect you'd give anyone." She shook her head, tears forming. "I trusted you. Told you about David, about my parents. Was it entertaining? The sad little stories of a poor woman." Michael reached for her hand, but she pulled away. "Everything I shared was true. My loneliness, my dreams, He hesitated, "My feelings for you." But Anna was already walking toward the door, dignity wrapped around her like armor. "I love the man in overalls. I don't know the man in suits." With those words, she vanished, leaving behind nothing but the scent of faded jasmine and a void no wealth could fill. Days stretched into weeks. Michael cleared Anna's name publicly, deposited a generous discovery bonus into her account, and even arranged for David to receive treatment from specialists in sickle cell research. All were rejected, the checks returned unopened, the medical appointments ignored. Quantum Link continued its upward trajectory. The merger proceeded successfully. Michael Williams was, by all external measures, at the pinnacle of his career. Yet he wandered his empty penthouse like a ghost, finding no solace in achievements that suddenly seemed hollow. In desperation, he visited Anna's small apartment, only to learn she'd moved without leaving a forwarding address. He tracked down David at the hospital, where the boy, so like his sister in the quiet dignity of his suffering, simply said, "She cries at night, but she's stubborn. Like you, I think." The comparison was a gift Michael didn't deserve. Rain pounded Lagos on the night Michael finally found her. A tip from a compassionate nurse led him to 3rd Mainland Bridge during rush hour, where Anna had taken to selling secondhand books from a small stall after losing her job at another company. No one wanted to hire the woman at the center of Quantum Link scandal, regardless of her innocence. His driver pulled over despite the honking traffic, and Michael stepped into the downpour without an umbrella. Water plastered his simple cotton shirt to his skin as he approached the plastic-covered stall where Anna huddled, her face illuminated by a small solar lamp as she tried to protect her precious inventory from the deluge. She looked up at the sound of approaching footsteps, and the shock on her face quickly hardened into something more complex. "Mr. Williams," she acknowledged formally, as if they were strangers. In a way, perhaps they were. "What can I help you find? Business strategy? Self-help? Or perhaps fiction? You're quite good at that." The bitterness in her voice was deserved, but Michael stood his ground as rain streamed down his face, washing away pretense. "I came to return something of yours," he said softly, pulling from his pocket the small, worn bookmark she'd once lent Francis when he'd expressed interest in a novel she was reading. "And to tell you that I was wrong." Not about my feelings, those are real, but about how to find truth. The rain drummed against the plastic sheeting as Lagos traffic crawled past, headlights illuminating their faces in rhythmic flashes. You lied to me, Anna said, but her voice had lost its edge, revealing the hurt beneath. Yes, Michael admitted, making no excuses. I created Francis because I was afraid that no one would ever see me, know me, love me for myself rather than my bank account. He stepped closer, heedless of the water, soaking through his shoes. But you taught me something, Anna. Authenticity isn't found in disguise. It's found in courage. To her astonishment, and that of several gawking motorists, Michael Williams, CEO of Quantum Link Systems, billionaire tech mogul, and one of Nigeria's most eligible bachelors, knelt in a puddle before her makeshift bookstall. I don't ask you to forgive me. I ask only that you allow me the chance to be as real with you as you always were with me. No more masks. No more Francis. Just Michael, a man who found his heart when he was pretending to be someone else. Something shifted in Anna's eyes. Not forgiveness, not yet, but perhaps its distant cousin, possibility. Slowly, she extended her hand, not to accept the bookmark, but to touch his cheek, confirming he was real. You're soaking wet, she observed softly. Michael laughed, a sound of pure relief. It seems appropriate. New beginnings often require washing away the past. As if in agreement, the rain began to ease, and the setting sun broke through clouds, casting an otherworldly glow across the bridge. Anna carefully closed her book and stepped out from behind her stall. I can't promise anything, she cautioned, but her hand remained in his as he rose to his feet. Neither can I, Michael replied honestly. Accept this. Whether in overalls or at Bada, in penthouses or bookstalls, I will always be true with you. As Lagos traffic finally began to move around them, they stood perfectly still. Two souls stripped bare by circumstance and choice, finding in each other's eyes something money could never buy and poverty could never diminish, recognition of one's true self, reflected in another's loving gaze.